What is up, guys? Atulia here with the College Majors and College Admissions channel, the one-stop college shop. Today I will be interviewing a college student. His name's Aaron Lee, and we will be talking about aerospace engineering. In this interview, I will be talking to him about what is aerospace engineering and more questions along the lines of aerospace engineering in college, so that you guys, my subscribers, or new people to my channel, can understand about the different college majors. So if you are new to this channel and don't know what I'm talking about or confused about what I'm talking about, please, there's a video, there's a link for a video in the video description down below. Go check that out. It will explain everything. It'll be the first link in the video description. So check that out. It will explain everything about my channel and you will understand why I do this. And so let's get into the interview. Just a little bit of background on Aaron, even though he'll give it. Aaron Lee, he is a Cal Poly student. He is an aerospace major, like the title suggests, and he is in his 4th year of college. So let's go say hi and figure out what is aerospace all about. See you there. Hi, Aaron. Welcome to the channel. So this interview is going to be about aerospace. So I think the first question we can ask is, who are you? Because there's a lot of people who probably don't know you. And yeah, who are you?
Yeah, well, hello, my name's Aaron, as you mentioned. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I am currently a 4th year, or rising 4th year at Cal Poly, and my current major is aerospace engineering.
Nice, nice. And so to dive a little bit deeper into aerospace, in simple words, like something, how would you explain aerospace to like a 5-year-old?
Yeah, so aerospace engineers, we build a lot of things that move through space and air. Obviously, there's big ones like airplanes and helicopters on the air side, and then satellites and rockets on the space side. And that's mainly what we focus on.
Nice. Okay. And then that kind of leads into the next question, which are, what are the types of concepts you learn in aerospace?
Yeah, so obviously, like every engineering, you have a very good basis in like physics and how things move in general. And then you get deeper into how things move through the air, for example, or through space if you're on the space side concentration. And then you go even deeper in how you control the way those vehicles move in space or in the air, how to build them so that they don't fall apart based on the stresses and the forces that are acting on them throughout their lifespan, and then designing not just the spacecraft or the aircraft itself, but also the mission that it performs, understanding how to convert what your project managers or your stakeholders or things like that want out of the program into something that you can deliver, something or some way that you can measure that you've achieved the goals that they set out for you.
That is so cool. And so now this kind of leads into like a personal question, which is, how did you choose aerospace out of engineering out of all the other engineering majors? And more specifically, why?
Yeah, so I wanted to be a fighter pilot as a little kid, but I got glasses, and without expensive LASIK, it wouldn't have been possible for me to fly fighter jets. And at the time when I got my glasses, I was, reasonably good at math and science and things like that, and so I figured engineering would be a good route. And specifically for fighter jets, you want to be an aerospace engineer because that's the group of people that deals with that kind of thing, or at least for the most part deals with that kind of thing. As I got older, though, I was more interested in the romance of like deep space exploration and being like that final frontier. And so I chose to concentrate more on the space side in college.
That's something. Um, and so this kind of leads into a question really broad of what are the types of companies you can work at when you get an aerospace major?
Yeah, so within the industry, we talk about the big three, which are Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and Boeing. At least in the United States, obviously, if you're in Europe, there's companies like Airbus and things like that that are more your big three in that kind of region. But primarily in the US, we talk about those three as the main ones. Another big one is obviously the government, because the military and organizations like NASA also require a lot of aerospace engineering majors. We also have a lot of work in the automobile industry and marine vessel industry, because we deal with aerodynamics and to a certain extent hydrodynamics as well. Um, and then within the space side, there's also a lot of companies that are building mini satellites like CubeSats and Polysats, as well as companies that are working on launch vehicles like obviously SpaceX, Blue Origin, um, and things like that. On the air side, every company that builds aircraft, helicopters, things like that is going to need aerospace engineers. But also these days, a very big focus on unmanned aerial vehicles or drones, just because that's where a lot of the industry is heading.
Okay, that is amazing for the people who are working in aerospace, and this is kind of helping them, see where they could go, right?
Right.
And this is kind of like a backup plan question. If you end up not liking aerospace, right? Maybe it's like your first year or your fourth year. What are the majors that are easiest to transfer to?
Yeah. I can't speak for all colleges, obviously. I should have prefaced all of my answers with that. But for most majors, or for most colleges, sorry, transferring between majors within the College of Engineering of whatever school you're going to is usually pretty easy, especially if you get it done pretty early. Um, and so the big one that most people will switch into is mechanical engineers or mechanical engineering. Some other ones that might interest you, depending on what it was that you liked and didn't like about aerospace engineering, are civil engineering, um, or materials engineering, manufacturing engineering. Although all of those engineering disciplines lie within sort of the same scheme, or are adjacent to the aerospace industry to a certain extent. And so if you get that transfer done, maybe your first or second year when you're still taking a lot of gen ed classes or a lot of introduction to physics, or even like higher level physics before that big separation into specialization occurs, it's totally possible. That being said, I don't think at any point in your life are you locked into your major. Like a lot of people are worried, oh, if I do something as specific as aerospace, I'll never be able to find a mechanical engineering job, or I'll never be able to find a materials engineering job, for example, and that's just not true. I know plenty of aerospace engineers who are working mechanical jobs and vice versa, of course. And to take it to an even further extreme, one of my old cycling buddies was a mechanical engineer. He graduated with a mechanical engineering degree, did that job for like 5 years before he realized it wasn't for him, and then decided to go back to school, and decided to be a dentist. So he went to dentistry school and got his dentistry degree, and now he's a dentist. So at no point, I think, in your life are you really um, pigeonholed into any one thing that you have to do. But to answer your question in a more succinct way, uh, if you had to switch into another major, I think mechanical engineering is usually the one that people would go towards.
Okay, thank you for giving that whole picture of saying, okay, this could happen, and really helping people understand that this what you choose, you don't have to always stick to it. That there's tons of options, and you can always change. Um, this is kind of also a personal question. What's the most fun thing that you did as an aerospace major, whether it be a class or something you did in a club?
Yeah, so personally, I really enjoyed orbital mechanics, which deals with how spacecraft move when gravity is the primary source of movement and force. Just how spacecraft move, and also planets, because they also fit within that orbital mechanics scheme. It's a lot of high level or relatively high level stuff, but it gets really, really interesting. And it's great if you're the kind of person who's like, I love physics because it explains why this does that or why this works. As far as the single most fun thing we did, we at Cal Poly have a space environments class that not every college does. But personally, I really enjoyed one of the projects we did there, which is we built essentially a pipe bomb that used a pressurized canister and a little bit of explosive, essentially, to create the effect of, for example, an overpressurized vessel in space and charting how that debris field can be very random and how wide it can spread. So we basically built a pipe bomb and blew it up.
That's so cool. Imagine doing that in college. Wow. And so this, we kind of went over this, but what type of classes do you take as an aerospace major?
Yeah, so obviously towards the beginning, you're going to have a lot of physics classes, a few chemistry classes, though not as much as you'd imagine, although your mileage may vary depending on what college you go to. Um, there's some very interesting classes that you wouldn't think you normally had to take, like technical writing for engineers, and then a few ethics classes as well. And then obviously your general engineering classes. For your first couple years, that's primarily what you're going to be doing. As you get higher up, you're going to learn how to code as well, because a lot of the aerospace industry works on coding. There's a lot of equations of motion that require a differential solution, and therefore you can't really do it by hand, um, or at least you can't do it by hand accurately and to a good scale, just because it would take a prohibitively long time. So obviously, and this is true of all engineering these days, you're going to need a good coding basis as you come up through the years. And then obviously a deeper specialization, for example, in propulsion or in orbital mechanics or space environments, and getting to really understand how those systems work and interact with other systems as well. And then as you get into your final year, more of like how the industry really works, the kind of paperwork and documentation and systems engineering that you're going to have to do in order to be an effective aerospace engineer, and be able to work with other people in a team and, submit a final project that's up to the specs and completes the goal that you were looking for.
Nice. That's the full scale of beginning to end and how you change and the types of classes you take. So that is cool. From previous knowledge I've had about aerospace and all, I know it. You can do it through the air, through space, but I've heard aerospace majors can go into marine companies where they build the design and all these different things with marine vessels. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, so we touch upon it more so in our fluid dynamics and thermodynamics classes. But if that's something you are interested in going towards, it's definitely an option. Mechanical engineering also gives you a great basis for that. And obviously, if your college offers something very specialized like marine engineering or something similar, then that might be the path that you want to take if you're dead set on this being your major. That being said, I would say the primary focus of aerospace is definitely more the air and space sides, and not necessarily as much the marine side. Although, again, like I said, you're not limiting your options by being an aerospace engineering major. Um, just that it's more focused on air and space, and at times, depending on what college you go to, perhaps a mechanical engineering degree would be better in that sense.
Okay, that kind of explains the whole marine side of fluid dynamics and all. And so this is more of a current situation of how has COVID and quarantine affected like the teaching and learning at in aerospace major.
Yeah, so as far as the educational side goes, the big loss is not being able to do labs in person. Um, on top of that, another big loss is that you can't work with people very closely. Obviously, you can still Zoom with them. You can still, you know, uh, use Google Drive and things like that, but you're missing that ability to meet someone face to face and talk and argue about things that you used to be able to do, obviously. And it is slightly different from, Zooming with someone, because there's just, uh, you know, technology delays and things like that that just don't lend themselves well to, true discussion. That being said, most of the classes that are not necessarily required to be in person. For example, lectures of any kind, basically, for the most part, have transitioned fairly well. Obviously, you still have some minor issues with like not every teacher is as tech competent as our generation is, and it's not always easy to ask questions, for example. Whereas in a class, you could just raise your hand and the teacher would instantly notice you. But again, it's been a transition for everyone. And I would say that our transition, because we don't have, for example, like a liberal arts major, requires very deep, in-depth discussions about things that are very emotion driven, or like at least not as pure numbers as the engineering majors are. It can be a little bit harder for them to have that kind of discussion over Zoom versus where ours is very straightforward, at least in comparison to that.
Okay, that kind of explains that, how quarantine and COVID has affected, the aerospace industry and classes and all that. And I think we can wrap up with, what would you recommend? So someone's in high school, they, after watching this or even before this, they liked the aerospace industry. What do you recommend they do in high school?
So yeah, that's a great question. There's plenty of things that you can do that'll help you just get into college to begin with. A big ones are like community service and being part of a sport to show that you, or a job to show that you can take orders and be a part of a team and work towards a goal that isn't instant gratification, right? Those are all great things to do just to get into college. Obviously, grades, test scores, those are fairly straightforward. And being part of engineering related clubs or engineering related classes, if that's something that's offered to you in high school, is really, really great. I know a lot of people within the aerospace major and the engineering college in general were part of their robotics club, for example, or some similar STEM related club when they were in high school, and that can lend itself very well to being an engineering major just in general. I know some schools have rocket clubs, and that's great if that's what you're interested in. And learning how to code is a really, really good thing to do. Again, it's not necessary at all. You'll have that intro to coding class no matter where you go, but having some basic knowledge or even slightly higher than basic knowledge before you come in can help immensely with that learning curve, which can be quite sharp depending on how good your teacher is and how quickly they need you to learn that language and just the coding process in general. And so in my mind, I would say it's definitely worth it to learn how to code before you come into college. But again, not a requirement by any means. And just showing that you're, willing to go above and beyond in terms of the academics. I know, or not the academics, sorry, above and beyond outside of the academics, because, it's great if you have like, a 4.5 GPA and your test score is like a 1600. But if that's all you do and outside of class, you aren't, going out to community service or playing a sport or being a part of a club or taking a leadership role in one of those clubs or working a job, um, any of those things, that shows that you're not just going to put your head down and stick your nose in a book for the entire 4 years you're in college, but also you know go outside of that, be creative or extra hardworking outside of class, doing something that's geared towards the real world, as much as something in high school can be the real world. Can be really, really good for your application process because, again, what these colleges are looking for is not just that you're going to achieve good grades and be good at taking tests. They want you to be an effective member of a future company. And part of that is being able to work as a team, being able to take leadership roles, and just generally being, more than just a number cruncher, because especially these days when, computers are doing a huge amount of the numbers crunching, there's a lot of focus on being able to work in a team, for example, having the emotional intelligence to be able to, play nice with others, for lack of a better term. And so anything that shows that you can do all of those is, a great path to getting into college. Um, I guess to answer your question more specifically with regards to aerospace, I would say focus on, joining a STEM club, taking part in that STEM related competition, and learning to code for sure, if that's something that you're able to do.
Okay, that is great. Thank you so much for coming on and interviewing. Yeah, that's that.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Thanks for having me.
Congratulations. You have made it to the end of today's video. I want to congratulate you because it was a very long video. Very long, very informational and educational video. So pat yourself on the back for a job well done. Wait before you go on to another video, a cat video, whatever. Vines, TikTok, whatever you're going to do next. Wait. I only have 3 things to ask of you. First is, if you're new, please hit the subscribe button because it helps me know that you guys want more of this content. And hit the like button if you want more of this type of content, talking about different college majors and career fields. The second being is, how can I make my videos better? So please put that feedback in the comment section down below. I will see how I can do that and make these videos better. And the last thing I have to ask of you is, what do you want to learn about next? What major, career field, what do you want to learn about more next? Whether that be an interview or a breakdown video where I break down the major or career field. Please put that in the comment section down below. I will have a list running and make sure I get to that video as soon as possible. So the last thing is, have an amazing day. You are special. See you in the next video.